introduce two people, my husband, who with his two brothers had the discipline and the energy and the foresight to follow through on this amazing odyssey. And Joe Hunter, my husband's here, and Joe Hunter, who is a video does magic with videos. Joe is a Newton resident, and he is the communications director at Olin College and has done a lot for local new TV programs. So there's a lot to be said, so I won't go on and on. I have the privilege to introduce my husband, Bruce Abley, son of Lieutenant Commander Manardell Abley, whose submarine we're talking about tonight. Bruce.
Thank you very much. In 1942, first, can you hear me pretty well? I have a loud voice, so it usually works pretty well. In 1942, the Abley family lived in Newton Highlands, on Montfort Road in Newton Highlands. The family at that time was our mother, my brother John, who was 5, my next brother Brad was 7, and I was 12. September 30th of that year was a Wednesday. It was a nice fall day, and we had been out tossing football around. Mother called us in and showed us a Western Union telegram that in essence said that the submarine Grunion that commanded by our dad was missing. Not missing in action, missing. They had no idea what happened to it. At the end of the war, there was an extensive search of both Japanese and American records for any clue at all as to what happened to the sub. Nothing was found. The sub has remained on the books as missing for 65 years. Last August, we went looking for the sub. On August 15th, which was the anniversary of VJ Day, in one of the most inaccessible parts of the world, you'll see, and almost a mile down, we found a target that had the right length, the right width. It had an appendage, it appeared to have an appendage on the back called a prop guard, which was characteristic of that class of subs. And in addition, we found all of the 3 Japanese wrecks that were in the same area, so we do not think there was confusion between wrecks. The most important thing was that the target that we found was almost exactly where was predicted by our source. And that gives a great deal of credibility to the fact that it probably is the Grunion. We're not certain, and again, this coming August, we're going back with an ROV, which has got high-definition cameras on it, to find out not only if it's the Grunion, but number 2, to find out why it sunk. And now Joe Hunter has put together this video, which obviously this story has got all types of press coverage, but this particular video that Joe has done has had more accolades than any of the others that I've seen so far. So I thought this would be kind of worthwhile seeing. Let's see if we can get everything to work. Got the right one, Joe?
Yeah, that's right.
USS Grunion, Grunion.com.
No, where they had the stories of the Pacific and
where they had the oh, you mean the com sub back? That's what it was. It was the official Navy submarine website. And even that is an incredible story. I mean, it didn't just get up there accidentally. There was a very unusual situation where Lieutenant Colonel Richard Lane, back in 1995, bought for $1 the wiring diagram that went on that Cane of Maru. And he went into an antique store and thought, yeah, this might be interesting, it might have some antique value. And about 3 or 4 years later, he figured, well, you know, how do I authenticate it? So he put it up on a website, the Japanese historical Navy website, and said, does anybody know anything about it? And Yutaka answered and said, yes, it is authentic, but also he thought he knew what happened to the Grunion. And Lieutenant Colonel Lane then was the one that got that posted to the ComSubPac website. You know, every one of the little steps of this whole process, if they hadn't happened, it wouldn't have occurred. I'd like to introduce, we have one daughter, who was Nancy Canaran Stark, just stand up. And it's very interesting because her friends to my mother, and actually went to the launching of the submarine, of the destroyer Manadel Abley, that was named to honor the men of the Grunion.
Is Grunion someone's name?
Is it what?
Is it someone's name?
No, it's a fish.
It's a fish.
It's all subs are named after fish. And by the way, the story of the Manadel Abley is kind of fascinating. There's a book been written on it, 3 Minutes Off Okinawa, and there is a production that's going to be shown on Smithsonian Channel on Veterans Day. And basically what happened was this was doing what they call picket duty. They're standing outside with radar off Okinawa, and all of a sudden there's a bogey plane, which is basically a spy plane, and they spotted it. And they knew, but if that happens, the kamikazes are coming. And all of a sudden you get 30 kamikazes, and they come in groups of 4 until you're sunk. And that's exactly what happened. And then after that, one of them hit, and there was a thing called a Baka bomb, which was a jet-controlled, jet-powered but man-guided bomb, basically. And that had to be just a lucky thing, but from their point of view, it hit the stack and just split the ship in half. And this one person, was Roy Anderson, who's written this book, was one of the few people that survived. Well, there were quite a few survived, but I'm still alive and really in very good condition today.
The Japanese group made any previous attempts to locate their missing?
No, they haven't. But neither is nobody knew anything about it. That's the thing that's so fascinating.
What's it, their missing subs?
Oh, I don't know. Well, we've found several. There are some subs up there, and there's an I-65, I think it is, or something like that, that's been notified. I mean, they're well aware of it right now, and that's in the harbor. And there's several other Japanese ships, but the 3 that we found was the Irari, which was a destroyer, sunk while it was actually an anchor, and then the 2 subchases.
That is a possibility.
They switch them.
Okay.
We put it
Yes.
on there, but they switch them.
When you do the exploration in August, will that sequence be added to the film?
Yeah, and that's just first thing we got to do it. That's just to get a feel of what's happening. We have an ROV. It weighs 25,000 pounds. It's not a light little gadget. I mean, that's plus all the equipment. It's at Falmouth, Massachusetts, and as of the July 27th, it's going to be put on a flatbed truck. And we have a driver. The driver is going to be in the Today Show if I have my choice. But he is going to get that to Seattle in 3 days. Well, actually, it's 2 drivers. They drive around the clock.
Wow.
Then once it gets to Seattle, we have to put the thing on the boat. Now, just putting it on the boat is not that simple because there's all types of electronic equipment that goes along with it. And that will take several days. And then the boat starts a trip which is 2,240 miles west from Seattle to get to Kiska. And that takes about 13 days. Then once we get to Kiska, we got to relocate the sub. Now that's not as simple as it sounds. I mean, we have some GPS locations of the boat, but not necessarily where the sub was, because the towfish or the sonar thing was way behind the boat. And so this is not quite as black and white as you might think. And when you're talking about something a mile down, that's kind of big stuff. But once we find it, I think we'll find it. We'll be there for a while. But once we find it, the ROV will take very high quality, high definition video of it and photographs of it, and that will hopefully substantiate it that is the Grunion. Actually, if it's American sub, it's almost black and white. That is the Grunion. But we have 2 ways of identifying this. I think there's a potential of a plaque on the front that says USS Grunion. But that's not a certainty. But there's a thing about the characteristic of the top of the conning tower that tells you a great deal about it. And you can't describe it with words, but it's something that particular class of subs had that would identify it. And then if that is the case, the next thing is to find out how it got sunk, because if you ask most submariners, they say in no way would a shell, a 3-inch shell or an 8 centimeter shell, hit a sub that was submerged and sink it. But the big story is that I talked with a person who was Nathan Oakham, who was probably the top person in the world for armor-piercing information, and he says that about